Thank you very much. Good day to all of you. First, I would like to thank the CGA for the invitation. I will quickly go to the presentation as it is quite long. I understand it's a rugby session, so I don't want to get a red card. So let's go directly to the presentation. It will have three parts, in fact. In the first part, we will really see the big numbers of the citrus industry. It will be very short. Then we will go to a second part when we will see the global challenges, winter citrus, summer citrus, and also the main consumer trends. And then we will have a last session, a last part, where we will see citrus for the big citrus family, I mean orange, easy peeler, and lemon, the specific challenges for summer citrus. So let's go to the big numbers first. As you can see on this small chart that represents the international fruit trade that do weight something like 70 million tons, you see that citrus is within the leading fruit families. It comes just after banana. Banana is 21 million ton traded. Citrus is 15 million ton. Banana represents something like 30% of the international fruit trade, and citrus 22. Citrus are before pea fruit, 10 million ton, and also exotic, something like 8 million ton. It's interesting to see if you look just to the two main fruit families, you have with banana and citrus something like more than half of the international fruit trade. If we come more in detail and have to try to have a look for the main citrus family, you see that oranges are leading, something like 6 million ton, 9% of the international fruit trade. Easy peeler comes just after, with close to 5 million ton, 7% of the international fruit trade. Lemon, a bit more than 2 million, 3%. And a very small market decreasing very significantly, which is grapefruit, today between 500 to 600,000 tons, and less than 1% of the international trade. I didn't put in this presentation information about lime, but lime today is a big market. It's something like 1 million tons, and it is before grapefruit nowadays. If we come now to the summer citrus trade, it's something like 4 million tons, so it's 6% of the fruit trade. If you look category by category, oranges during the summer season in 1.6 million ton, soft citrus 1.2, lemon a bit less than 1 million, and grapefruit 200,000. As you can see, if we compare the summer citrus trade with the global citrus trade, it only represents something like 28% of the global citrus trade. In fact, in a lot of markets, citrus consumption remains linked to cold temperature, and also in the leading market, of course, you have during the summer citrus season a great volume of summer fruit, especially stone fruit, who come in huge volume in a short period of time and are very attractive. So that explains why the market share of citrus during the summer season is far lower than during the winter one. As you can see, we have two exceptions, which is lemon, and it's obvious that the lemon consumption is not so seasonal at the over citrus one, and also grapefruit. This is a bit special, but grapefruit, in fact, have lost a great part of its market during the winter season by lack of quality. And I guess that it's interesting to see that the consumption during the summer season is resisting better. And for that, we have a share of the global market for grapefruit during the winter season, which is close of 30%. Let's have a look now to still the big number, but let's speak a bit about production now. So if we look at the production by continent and by region, you see that Asia is dominating by far with 66 million tons, with some big players, especially two big ones, who ranks in the first trio, which are China, 35 million tons, India, 12 million tons. Then come the Americas, North America, Central America, Latin America, something like 36 million tons, with big players such as, obviously, Brazil, 13 million tons, also Mexico, that come in second position in America with 6 million tons, the USA decreasing very significantly, but still at 5 million tons and ranking 7. And then we shift to the Mediterranean, something like 20% of the world production, 28 million tons, with leading players such as Spain, 6 million tons, Turkey, also 6 million tons. And finally, Africa, 8% of the global fruit citrus production, with a bit less than 12 million tons, with two big players, Nigeria, 4 million tons, and also South Africa, who ranked 10th in the production with a bit more than 3.4 million tons. It's very interesting to see on this chart that we have a specialization, a geographical specialization by outlet. Look at this chart that do represent on the horizontal line the share of the production that go to the exports, and on the vertical line the share of the production that is processed. And you see that there is clearly a specialization in Asia for auto-consuming. I mean, they don't export or very limited volume. They don't process neither. However, if you look at the red bubble, America is exporting in limited volume, however, processing something like 40% of its volume. The Mediterranean has clearly a specialization to export, exporting more than 30% of its production, on processing around 10%. Obviously, when you export, you need to sort the fruit, and you have some fruit that you need to process or to put to the local market. And Africa is in a very peculiar position, in fact, because it's an hybrid position due to South Africa. We have two main groups, in fact, in Africa. You have all the other African countries, a part of South Africa, that mainly auto-consume the citrus, 8 million tons, and South Africa that is even not possible to place on the chart, exporting huge volumes, something like 60 to 70% of its volume, and processing also a large part of its production. So clearly, if we want to speak about the trade, we will definitely be in the Mediterranean region during winter, and in South Africa, and also at a lower extent in South America. Let's have a look now to the dynamic of citrus. So in this chart, you have on the horizontal line the volume traded, and on the vertical line, you have the growth calculated, the yearly growth calculated on the average of the last 10 years. You see that citrus is a big family within the biggest, of course. However, regarding the growth, it is very, very slowly growing. In fact, on the last 10-year average, the growth was slightly above 1%, which is very slow. It's significantly below the main fruit traded, I mean banana, which is at 1.8, and it's only slightly below the fruit average. It is far lower than the most dynamic fruit family. As you can see, the exotic are really growing very quickly, have grown very quickly these last 10 years, a bit less than 5%, with a record-breaking growth for avocado, close to a two-digit number, 9% by year. Mango is at 3.3. Also, a very dynamic group is the berry, 3% of growth on the last 10 years, and blueberry themselves at 9% of growth by year. If you look to the citrus by family, we see that oranges is, of course, the most important market in volume, however, almost stagnating. On the last 10 years, the average growth was around 0.3%. The easy peeler are doing better with 1.7% of growth by year. Lemon is by far the most dynamic citrus family, 3.6% by year. And the grapefruit is doing, unfortunately, very bad these last 10 years, a decrease of around 3.6% by year. Let's now have a closer look to this dynamic, and let's see the very last trends regarding consumption, analyzing the last 4 years for winter citrus, the orange curve, and summer citrus. What we see for winter citrus is that we are, let's say, almost stable during all this period of 10 years. We have some oscillation before 20 till 21 between 10 to 11 million tons. It's slightly lower this last season. From, in fact, 22-23, we are oscillating between 10 to 10.5. And regarding the Southern Hemisphere trade, we have really a rupture regarding the trend. We had, until 2021, a very dynamic market, growing by 5% by year. However, this last season, we have a slight decrease, and in fact, the summer citrus market has lost something like 100,000 tons these last 3 seasons. So a further slowdown of the market. Let's come now to the second part, and let's have a look to the global issue, the global market context, the global challenges, and the global trends. Some of these points have already been presented by other speakers, so I will go quickly on some slides. So let's have a look first to, of course, a problem that is obvious is the climate change. But what is very interesting to see is that the climate change appears not to be a problem for tomorrow, for fruit tree, but it's already a problem for today. Look at these charts that do represent the evolution of the international fruit trade. What we clearly see is that until 2021, we had a very fast growing fruit market, 1.5 million tons by year in average during 10 years, during the last decade. However, during the last 2 years, for which we have numbers, we have a decrease, and a significant decrease. We lost something like 3 million tons in 2 years. Why such an evolution? Of course, it's extremely difficult to do scientific correlation. However, what we see is that there is a very probable link between the climate change. In fact, almost all the fruit kind have been affected, especially Mediterranean citrus. Banana also is doing bad. Even if you look at avocados that has been widely planted these last years, we see a significant decrease of the growth. And we clearly see that demand is not the problem because prices have done well. So there is something definitely linked to a global issue and possibly, very possibly, the climate change. If you look, for example, at the Mediterranean country, a selection of Mediterranean countries who have a stable orchard, I mean Spain, Morocco, Tunisia, and Greece, you clearly see that there is something special after 2021. Till 2021, we were on average running around 11 million tons. The last 3 seasons, we have a totally unprecedented decrease, and we were around 9 to 10 million tons by year. Yeah. Other relation to the climate change, and we already speak slightly about that yesterday, it's the link between climate change and phytosanitary issue and phytosanitary pressure. We have a shorter cold winter period. So it means that for the pests, the diapause period is shorter. So we clearly see already that we have a pest pressure increasing. In the Eastern Mediterranean, for example, we have more attacks of fruit fly. Also, we have seen this last year a very strong attack of cotonet in Spain. And on the other end, we have a control which is much more difficult because we have less weapons to fight against these diseases because of less active principle available and also lower MRLs. Second point that we already discussed yesterday is that hotter temperatures are more suitable for invasive diseases. And of course, we can clearly think of the risk of greening, and it's clearly increasing. Again, in the Mediterranean, we have seen these last 2 years the citrus psyllid of the Asiatic form, Diaphorina citri, being detected in Israel 2022 and in Cyprus September 23. Just to remember you the risk that represent greening, this is on this chart the evolution of the Floridian production after greening. The orange production in Florida has changed from 9 million tons before the greening period to 600,000 tons, this very last season, divided by 15. If you look to grapefruit, the production has been divided by 13. So I really think that it's very important to stay extremely strong regarding epidemiological survey, whether it could, of course, cost a lot of money for grower, production losses, extra cost for treating against the diseases. I spoke about a climatic issue, but we are also in a world of growing political uncertainties. I will go quite quickly because I think that we commented quite a lot this before. We have, of course, direct impact on the country affected by big crises, war on consumption, and also issue to collect the fruit, such as in Israel this last season, it's obvious. But we have something which is much more global, affecting very significantly the citrus trade in general, and it's the issue affecting the market access. And we have last season a very significant example with the conflict in the Suez Canal. Egypt, who had this season a very strong crop, has a great difficulty to reach the big Asian markets, a very big market for them, in fact. So they have been obliged to divert a lot of fruit to other markets, and especially to Europe. And we have seen in Europe, here on this chart, you do see the weekly prices that we collect with our observatory of the oranges. You see that we had something like a 40 cents per kilo price decrease when Egypt come in, so big losses for the Spanish grower that had to fight during the whole season to very cheap Egyptian fruit, sometimes sold slightly higher than 40 cents of euro per kilo import stage. So a very destabilizing effect of the conflict that could affect the trade routes. Also, but we already spoke a lot about that, what we can call the custom rearmament. In fact, we are switching from the World Market Organization world with limited trade barrier to the Mr. Trump one with custom taxes from everywhere. We have the direct impact of what's going on in the US, but also we can ask ourselves what would be the global impact of this with some retortion, for example, of other countries. We have also something that has begun to go on, it's new political alliance. And we have seen some market with changing slightly of structure. For example, we have seen Morocco in Russia decreasing very significantly. However, we have seen China, that was never a big player on this market, coming back in Russia this last year because, of course, there is some kind of proximity regarding political situation between Russia and China. And they had exported last season, during the winter season, something like 100,000 tons of easy pillar to Russia. So I really think that it's very important to have a close look to the political situation. I don't know if it will lead us to a business as usual world, a new World Market Organization, but definitely it has to be carefully monitored.
Yeah.
Let's go now to some other trends, but are more related to the consumer willing. And it appears that we are going, on my point of view, to a more price competitive market. I mean that the quality-oriented supplier, of course, it's not a scientific demonstration, quality-oriented supplier. However, let's say that the country who have a long-hand variety range, high certification level, high segmentation, those countries appears to lose ground is what you see on the blue curve. The export are tending down, not as significantly as what you can see on the 2 years on the two last season, because we had great climatic issue, so it's not so relevant. But the trend is clearly to a decrease. However, what we see is that, let's say, the price-oriented suppliers, such as Egypt and Turkey, are clearly gaining ground. And they gain ground not only on the price-oriented market, but also in the high GDP market. For example, in the European Union, Egypt has gained something like 400,000 tons. In Turkey, regarding Turkey, they gained something like 100,000 tons. So we have something maybe quite a consumption model changing, at least in some countries. It's of course in Europe in line with the evolution of the distribution panorama. We have a weak economy. We have also hard discounters that now represent a great part of the distribution of the food distribution in Europe, 20% in average, up to 40% in Germany. Also, something which is, let's say, profitable to this structural change is some kind of financiarization of the trade at the import stage, especially in Europe. We see pension fund this last year investing in a citrus distribution company in Europe, especially in Spain. And according to a study made in 2020, 25% of the citrus distribution company in Spain were in the end of 5 pension funds. And these companies are, of course, less interested in defending an origin such as Spain than, of course, making money. This model should be quite, as could have some consequences on the consumption of on the long term, because of course it's not the same things regarding eating quality when you compare these two models of production. Finally, let's speak about something that is not new, however, that is still, I think, a big issue regarding the citrus industry, is that we have really a very few promotion done, and that's a big problem. Because you can see on this chart that to represent the evolution of the avocado trade, that promotion work in the fruit industry. And I guess that avocado is the right model, because avocado, the player, have built a system of promotion, a very powerful system of promotion based on a parafiscal tax, which is totally mandatory in the US. You have to give 5 cents of each kilo commercialized in the US for promotion, but you get, thanks to this small 5 cents, and due to the volume traded, a promotion budget around $70 to $80 million by year, which is huge in the fruit industry. This budget is used for generic promotion, but not only, it's used for country promotion, so I guess it's very clever, especially since the topic is focused on a very powerful communication mean to the consumer, is the health benefits. There are efforts to develop a similar system in the European Union, but it's far less powerful because there is no mandatory parafiscal tax. And I guess that we had exactly the same strength regarding citrus. We have wonderful health benefits, and I really think that it would be worth to communicate about that. We have also now a very nice vector, which is the World Citrus Organization, and I think that this organization has to be reinforced, and that the question of promotion has been to be raised again. Whether, just for remembering, of course, citrus, remember, are exposed to very fierce competition of dessert alternative, part of them being very convenient, and I really think that convenience is a key word, especially for the Z generation, and those products are really powerfully marketed. Maybe also fresh-cut citrus could be a solution if we speak about convenience. There are still some technological issues, and of course cost is a problem, but maybe it's worth also to think again about that. Some few words, we already spoke about that, Rocco spoke about that yesterday. It's true that the farm to fork strategy is over. However, I don't think that the European regulation will go back regarding sustainability, especially environmental sustainability. It means, of course, less use of phytosanitary products, also biodiversity protection, and there are already things running regarding cocoa, coffee, soy and wood, regarding the reduction and deforestation. Of course, the carbon footprint, there is something that will be engaged in 2026 about for the heavy industry, nothing in agriculture for the moment. And I would not be surprised that something could raise regarding water and water footprint. We see already that certification are more and more demanded by the multiples, and I will not be surprised by something going on for water. We have also, when we speak about sustainability, it's not only environmental sustainability, but also social. And we have already the due diligence put in place. And in Germany, the authorities want to go deeper with what they call the Lieferkettengesetz, which has much more ambition, and they are willing they are studying something related to the living wage in the banana chain. Also, there is still a regulation that could come on the mid to short term about environmental labeling. I mean, a system when you rate some factor related to environmental sustainability to get a global rate as it is done for nutrition. Finally, to conclude with the general trend, and there is, I put it at the end because it's a very good one for you, of course, is that, of course, if we look at the summer trade, who is the winner? It's South Africa, clearly. Look at the evolution of the export from the main Southern Hemisphere exporting country. You see that South Africa has gained something like 1 million tons in 10 years, with this last season between 2.5 to 2.6 million tons, and that its market share on the summer citrus has gained something like 10%, going up to 70%. And if you look at the other market player in details, the South American exporter are losing ground for the main part of them, Argentina, Uruguay. Chile is back to stability after a nice growth until 2021. And Peru, Australia, there is a slight surge, but it is very recent and only this last season. But in any case, South Africa is leading by far this summer citrus market. And I try to put some explanation on my point of view why such a success for South Africa. I think that there is 4 big points. The first one is the market diversification. And I find a way to try to illustrate it by putting, by each exporting country, the big market, I mean the one who do represent more than 10%. And you see that Chile and Australia are depending from one market only, Chile, the US, Australia, Asia. Uruguay, Peru, and Argentina have their market based on the European Union and the US. The only country who has such color, in fact, it's a rainbow nation, as you can see, with a great asset of market. In fact, South Africa is present in all the main market apart South America. Also, I guess one of the big points is, of course, that you have a large and fast-evolving variety range with a high proportion of top-quality licensed cultivar, especially in easy pillar and oranges. You have 2 kinds of pedoclimatic conditions that make that you can get optimal quality fruit thanks to a Mediterranean climate in the south, tropical climate in the north. And not to forget, I think that it's a very big point, and everybody, all the speakers have spoken about that. You have a wonderful and incredibly strong market structure thanks to the CRI, the CGA, the Exporter Forum, with connection with the local and international institution. Let's go now to the last part, and let's have a look to the main challenges for easy peeler, oranges, and lemon. Let's begin by lemon. In fact, in the first slide is some kind of a snapshot where you will see the dynamic of the market, then the actors that are present in this market, and then the market by themselves. And you see that regarding easy peeler, we have an incredible growth this last year. In fact, we gained something like 800,000 tons. It's a record-breaking 10% growth by year. This very last year, the increase has remained. It has been a bit slower, but it has still been impressive with something like 8% by year. If we look at the market player for easy peeler, as you can see, South Africa is leading by far, 50% of the export, 63% of the growth. It is followed by Peru and Chile. However, the growth has been very limited for those market players these last 4 years. And we have a little participation of Argentina and Uruguay, stable to decreasing. If we look at market, in fact, we have 3 markets representing 3/4 of the business. The growth is standing down in America, in North America and in Asia. North America being the leading market. However, we continue to have a steady growth in the European Union by something like 7% by year. All the other markets also are showing good sign. We have in Eastern Europe, Mediterranean and Asia market beginning to wake up. Yeah. Why such a dynamism? I guess that it's first linked to a very clever change of market window. And I guess that the late market window, I mean the one that is in September, October, makes a lot of sense. Why? Because at this period we have a much more open market window. We have cooler climate, more suitable for citrus consumption, and also far less competition of local fruit, especially in Europe and in the US. Also, regarding quality, summer easy peeler as a reference compared to the early Mediterranean citrus that we can get at this time. Nadorcot, Tango, Hori are of course much better in taste than early clementines. Also, I think it's a big point for the future. You have there quite a safe market window. Why? If you look at Spain, which is of course the leader regarding easy peeler exports, you see that the plantation, especially in the Valencia region, which is the main planting region for easy peeler in Spain, the planting has mainly focused on late variety and very few on the blue curve that do represent, in fact, the early clementine. So again, I guess it's quite a safe market window. However, if you look at your early market, I mean the late market for the winter season, it is not at all the same situation. As you can see, we had now in the Mediterranean a huge orchard of late variety. I estimated around 23,000 hectares for Nadorcot and Tango, 6,000 hectares for Hori, only speaking, of course, about licensed varieties. So it means that we should have in the future a potential, an export potential of around 1.1, 1.2 million tons, without speaking about Turkey, was a huge orchard of W. Murcott, but it's unlicensed, and it's not possible for them to go to Europe. But it means that we should have an increase compared with today of something like 500,000 tons in the future of extra volume from the Mediterranean coming on the late market in Europe. Yeah. Also, if we look at consumption of late easy peeler, I think that we have some very good sign, in fact. We have the US market that appears to be quite stabilized this last season. We had no growth, however, with a very strong consumption level, around 3 kilos. If we look at the other big market, Canada has grown of something 8%, the European Union more than 10%, Russia, small market for summer easy peeler, however, growing by 5%. And as you can see, all these markets are still consuming quite limited volume. If we come more precisely to Europe, I think that there is also quite a good sign as the market appears to begin more global. Remember, 10 years ago, the summer easy peeler market was the UK and partly, for a small part, Northern Europe. Today, the summer hemisphere easy peeler market is 2/3 in the European in the continent and only 1/3 in the UK. And what we can see is we have what we can call a sign of denordination on the continent. So I mean that the summer easy peeler are slowly growing to the south of the continent. It's quite difficult to show that with number. As you know, when the easy peelers and when the fruit enter in Europe through the Holland or through Spain, it's very difficult to trace them after to have indication about the origin. However, if we look at the direct import of countries who are not the UK, who are not the point of introduction, the hub for imported products in Europe, who are Netherlands and Spain, you see that the volume has doubled. So it means that we have some nice signs of new market developing in the south of Europe. Also, the structural change, there are some structural changes who are positive. I spoke about the very low rate of planting of early clementine, but we have not only a slow rate of planting, but also lots of uprooting. And also we have something I commented before, this globalized company of distribution of citrus who are keener to Southern Hemisphere citrus. So that was for the good news. However, let's have a look to what should come regarding production of summer easy peeler in the coming years. I try to make some kind of census, and it definitely, we had a huge wave of planting. In fact, as you can see on these charts that do represent the acreage of summer easy peeler, we gained something like 30,000 hectares the last 8 years. In total, if we look at all the late easy peeler planted, we may have something like 30,000 hectares of Tango W. Murcott-like, 3,000 hectares of Ori. So it means that to be very conservative, we should have something like 1.7 million tons of export at full swing. So it means, as it is the case for the Mediterranean country, maybe 500,000 tons of easy peeler coming in the coming years on the market from the Southern Hemisphere. Let's now have a look to oranges. So you see the trend regarding the market is totally different. We had a nice growth until 2021, something like 30,000 tons by year. However, the market is slightly decreasing this last year with 15,000 tons lost. If you look at the market player, the domination of South Africa is total. South Africa is controlling 75% of the Southern Hemisphere global export, and in fact, it's the only global player. If you look at Australia, they come in second position with nice volume. However, they are entirely directed to Asia. The same goes for South America. The same goes for South America. It's limited volume and losing ground. If we look at the market, unfortunately, you can see that we had, in fact, bad news coming from everywhere. If you look at the main market, we are 4 of those markets on 5 who are decreasing. In Europe, we have 3 very bad seasons regarding imports, in fact, of poor volume regarding the winter season. If you look at Asia, who was a key driver till 2027, we are sharply decreasing, 80,000 tons lost. Also, not North America. The only good news comes from North America. It's not the biggest. However, it's the only one increasing. If we look at the consumption trends, winter season and northern season, we see that the situation is not favorable. In the European Union, we lose these last 10 years 1.5 kilo. Consumption is around 5.4 kilo now. North America, who represents 7% of the market, Canada has lost 2 kilo. The US has lost 2 kilo, and consumption is now only at 2.7 kilo per capita. Canada has lost close to 1 kilo. The only market who have resisted are the Eastern European one, stable at 4.3 kilo. So the only market who are resisting bit better is the one of low GDP, in fact, Russia, Ukraine, and it's really linked, I guess, to convenience issue on the high GDP market. If we look at the coming volume, expected coming volume from the northern hemisphere, we have some good news regarding, let's say, the middle-sized player, California, Greece, Turkey. The orchard is slightly decreasing. However, look at Egypt. Egypt, the orchard is very difficult to get right information about Egypt regarding acreage. The data I manage as the one of the USDA, they speak about 30 to 35,000 hectares of increase, mainly late oranges. In any case, the trend, even if the data is not is very rough, the trend is confirmed by all the players there. There is a nice increase of the orchard in Egypt. Also, if you look at Spain, the orchard has not really developed. However, we had a very strong wave of renewal until the end of the last decade, especially for late oranges. So we may have also from Spain higher volume linked to higher productivity of the new cultivar planted. Hopefully, there are some good news, in fact, regarding oranges, because the summer hemisphere orchard is almost stable at around 140 hectares. And also, there is something also which is, of course, a very good escape for the moment, is the juice market. As you can see, we are running until 2022 at a level which is close to 6,000 to 7,000 euro by ton. It's linked, of course, to the situation in Brazil. We spoke about that, but I think that the big question is, until when will we see these very good prices? If we look at the stocks, we spoke about that tomorrow. I guess that we should the situation should remain quite satisfactory for the next season by lack of stocks. However, what will go on after, on the mid to the long term? Will we come back to pressure? I guess it's worth to raise the question, because we heard yesterday that some solutions are beginning to appear in Brazil. There are also some new production areas, more in the north, less affected by the greening. We have some new players who pretend to play a big role in the processing market, such as Egypt. There are already some new companies, some new processing facilities there. Let's have a look in the future if it will develop, and also remember the demand pattern, which is bad for orange juice consumption. I have to go quickly on the lemon because I have only 2 minutes left. So you can see on this snapshot that the lemon market is very similar to the orange one. In fact, nice increase until recently, and then quite a significant decrease. If you look at the market player, South Africa is again leading by far, 61% of the trade, with Argentina and Chile. And then regarding the market, you see that we have quite a change. The European is leading with the US, 60% of the volume. However, as you can see in Europe this last season, Spain is back, and we can clearly see that on the summer hemisphere imports. North America is the only market gaining ground. However, it's 75% in the end of Chile and Argentina. I really think that the key word for lemon is caution. Look at the acreage that have been planted in the northern and in the southern hemisphere. Huge planting in the northern hemisphere, something like 50,000 hectares in 10 years, 30,000 hectares the last 5 years. In the southern hemisphere, the situation is similar. It's true that in Argentina we had huge acreage uprooted, 10,000 hectares. However, at the end of the day, on the last 10 years, we have an increase of something like 20,000 hectares. So altogether, 70,000 hectares planted in the last 10 years. And on the last 5 years, sorry, there is a mistake in the text, the increase is around 40,000 hectares. So maybe, and again, to be very conservative, 1.5 million tons to come. And also, demand is not at all the same as the one we had in the past. The craze for lemon is over. And you can see that it's not only affected lemon, you can see it on the red curve, which is the evolution of the lemon trade, but also the other acidic citrus, which is lime, who has also suffered of the same situation. Nice increase, and this last year, a significant slowdown of the growth. And unfortunately, if we look at the processing market, it is not an escape as it is regarding oranges. The lemon concentrate market is on the floor. Let's see what will go on in the future. Shall we expect a rebound thanks to the uprooting in Argentina? The question is raised. I try to put some rough number. We may have a decrease in Argentina. Maybe, again, it's rough number, and a more in-depth study is needed, but maybe Argentina will lose something like 50% of its production. Will it be necessary for the lemon market to rebound? Let's see. What we see for the moment is that the spot market has begun to react slightly. Just, I'm at 0, so sorry. So to sum up, in conclusion, some keywords. Definitely, we are heading toward a very uncertain world, not only climatically speaking, but also politically speaking, and this is definitely an issue. In this context, I really think that information is a key. It's a key as well as the capacity to quickly adapt to this new market, to the new challenges, to the new opportunity that can take place. The second keyword, I guess, is, you have seen it, we have now limited margin of growth. Limited margin of growth because of demand limitation. We see it in oranges, in grapefruit, in lemon. Also because of the additional production expected, especially in easy peeler and in lemon. So capacity to innovate, to new variety, maybe to new product is a key, as well as the capacity to open further new market and to the capacity to fight a greater competition. And I really think, and I feel that it's very important for you, that you have a lot of strength to resist to this highly uncomfortable market. Why? Because you have a wide range of accessible market and a wide range of competitive citrus suitable for each of them. You have a strong industry organization, so the capacity to develop suitable strategy, to communicate it to the stakeholder, to negotiate and apply the protocol to open new market. And also you have a strong base to innovate thanks to CRI in research and CGA for development. And finally, but this is a global challenge, think about promotion. I think that it's really a big deal regarding citrus. We have wonderful product, wonderful eating quality, wonderful eat benefit, and it's worth to reinforce WCO to promote our product. And a little promotion at the end for our magazine, Free Drop, and for our weekly notes. Thanks for your attention.